At first glance, a Victorian tea party seems gentle and relaxing. Delicate cups, soft conversations, and quiet laughter. But behind this peaceful scene, there were unspoken rules. Small expectations, and a careful way of behaving. Because in the 1800s, even a simple afternoon tea was never as effortless as it appeared. Hello there, and welcome back to the HistSleep channel. The morning in a Victorian household begins not with a sound, but with a feeling. The air is cool, carrying the faint scent of beeswax and dampened stone. You are sitting by the window, watching the grey London sky slowly surrender to a pale, watery gold. Everything is quiet, until the soft, rhythmic click of leather boots on the pavement outside breaks the silence. It is the postman. He does not knock loudly, for in this world, even the delivery of news is a choreographed performance. You hear the metallic slide of the letterbox, and then the soft, heavy thud of cream-colored stationery hitting the floor. It is a sound that carries more weight than it should. You know, before you even stand up, that your afternoon, and perhaps your entire social standing, is about to be measured. As you pick up the envelope, you feel the thickness of the paper. This is not a casual note. It is vellum, smooth, expensive, and cool to the touch. You run your thumb over the edges, feeling the crispness that only comes from the finest stationers in the city. The wax seal is a deep, bruised crimson. It sits there, perfect and unbroken, a silent guardian of the words inside. An invitation was never simply optional. Breaking the seal feels like an act of quiet defiance. The wax snaps with a delicate crunch, and the scent of heated resin lingers for a moment in the air. You unfold the paper slowly. The ink is dark, the handwriting a perfect, flowing copperplate script, looping and elegant, yet impossibly firm. It is an invitation to tea, next Thursday, at 4 o'clock. You look at the name of the hostess. Mrs. Sterling. A woman whose smile is as sharp as her wit, and whose drawing room is the silent battlefield of the local elite. On the surface, it is a simple request for your company. But as you stare at the elegant curves of the letters, you feel the invisible threads of Victorian society tightening around you. To be invited is a relief, but it is also a summons. The room feels a little smaller now. The clock on the mantelpiece ticks with a new intensity. Tick, tick, tick. You realize that the moment you touch this paper, your schedule was no longer your own. In this era, time is a currency, and you have just been asked to spend it in a very specific way. You think about the ink, still so fresh it seems to shimmer under the morning light. It represents hours of careful planning by the hostess. The guest list, the seating arrangement, the subtle balance of power in the room. By holding this paper, you are now a piece on her chessboard. You wonder who else received this same cream-colored envelope today. Who was left out? And who, like you, is currently standing in their morning room, feeling that strange mixture of pride and a heavy, quiet pressure. The invitation does not ask if you are free. It assumes you will be. In the Victorian world, to decline such a gesture without a grave, undeniable excuse is a declaration of social war. And so, you hold the paper close to your chest, feeling its weight. The quiet of the morning has changed. It is no longer a time for rest, but a time for preparation. The afternoon is coming, and with it, the 1,000 tiny rules you must follow to remain proper. The invitation lies open on your lap, its cream-colored surface catching the pale morning light. It is more than just paper, it is a social contract. In this era, an invitation is the currency of the soul. To receive one is to be seen, to be recognized, to be validated. But with that validation comes a heavy, quiet expectation. You are not just being asked to drink tea, you are being asked to perform. In the Victorian world, your presence is a message to everyone else in the room. Your dress, your posture, the way you hold a silver spoon, these are the words you speak without ever opening your mouth. Every guest is a piece of a larger puzzle, carefully selected by the hostess to create a specific image. If you are invited, it means you fit that image. It means you are proper. But what does it truly mean to be proper? It means living under a microscope of 1,000 eyes. You think about the guest list Mrs. Sterling must have labored over for hours. The social expectations are not written on the card, but they are there, etched in the invisible ink of tradition. You are expected to bring more than just yourself. You must bring your reputation, unsullied and bright, like a polished mirror. If you are a young woman, the expectation is one of quiet grace. You must be a floral arrangement in human form, beautiful to look at, but never too loud, never too bold. If you are a gentleman, you are expected to provide the sturdy architecture of the conversation, polite, restrained, and endlessly formal. The weight of these roles, of these costumes we wear for each other, begins to settle on your shoulders even now, days before the event. There is a strange, quiet tension in the air of the morning room. You realize that this invitation is a test of your character. Every Victorian home is a stage, and the tea table is the center of the performance. You are expected to know the unspoken hierarchy. Who speaks first? Who sits nearest to the fire? Who is allowed to lead the laughter? To fail in these small things is to fail in everything. The society you live in, this web of interconnected families and names, relies on these expectations. They are the glue that holds the gilded world together. Without these rules, there would be chaos. Or so they tell us. But as you sit there, tracing the elegant loops of the handwriting, you feel the exhaustion of it. The expectation to be perfect, to never have a stray hair, to never have an impolite thought. In the Victorian mind, a person's private life is a dark room, but their social life must be a lighthouse. Bright, clear, and unwavering. This invitation is a summons to light that lamp. You think of the other houses in the street. In each one, perhaps another woman is holding an identical card. She is thinking the same things. She is wondering if her silk dress is still in fashion, or if her conversation will be clever enough to satisfy the room. We are all bound by these invisible threads. We are all watching each other, not with malice, but with a desperate need to belong. The social expectation is not just about manners, it is about survival. To be excluded is to vanish. To be forgotten is to cease to exist in the eyes of the world. And so, the invitation is a lifeline. A heavy, demanding, beautiful lifeline. You look at the clock again. The pendulum swings back and forth. Left, right, left, right. Each tick is a reminder that the time for preparation has begun. You must prepare your mind, as much as your wardrobe. You must rehearse the safe topics, the polite questions, the gentle deflections. You must become the person the invitation expects you to be. The quiet of your home feels different now. It is no longer a sanctuary, it is a rehearsal space. The expectation of the tea party hangs in the air like the scent of old perfume, sweet, but slightly suffocating. You take a deep breath, feeling the cool air fill your lungs. You fold the paper back into its original crease, carefully, as if it were a fragile bird. The social dance has begun, and you have already taken your first step, simply by holding the card. The weight of the world's gaze is upon you, even here, in the silence of your own room. And as the morning fades into a soft, gray afternoon, the anticipation begins to grow. It is a quiet, steady heartbeat beneath the surface of your skin. The invitation still rests in your hand, its weight feels heavier now, as if the paper itself has absorbed the gravity of the decision ahead. You think for a moment, just a fleeting moment, of what it would be like to say no. To simply stay home. To sit by your own fire, in your own quiet thoughts, without the costume, without the performance. But in this world, the Victorian world, the word no is a stone thrown into a still pond. The ripples, once started, never truly stop. Why is it so difficult to decline? It is because an invitation is not a request, it is a test of loyalty to the social fabric. To decline without a reason that is unimpeachable, such as a death in the family or a severe, bed-binding illness, is seen as a deliberate insult. A slight. And in a society built on the fragile glass of reputation, a slight is a crack that can shatter an entire life. You stare at the fire in the grate, watching the orange embers pulse like a heartbeat. If you send a note of regret, what would you say? You cannot simply say you are tired. You cannot say you prefer your own company. Fatigue is seen as a lack of character, and a desire for solitude is seen as a dangerous eccentricity. To be a Victorian is to be public. To withdraw is to become a ghost before your time. The difficulty lies in the white lie. Even if you were to craft the most elegant excuse, the hostess, Mrs. Sterling, would read between the lines. She would examine your handwriting for a tremor of guilt. She would ask your cousins, your friends, your doctor if your excuse was true. In this era, everyone is an investigator. Everyone is watching for a sign of weakness or a sign of rebellion. To decline is to invite gossip, and gossip is the slow poison of the Victorian age. Think of the consequences of a refused tea. The next time you walk down the street, a carriage might not stop. A hat might not be tipped in your direction. A door that was once open might remain firmly shut. It is not just one afternoon you are losing, it is the 1,000 afternoons that follow. The social circle is a ring of fire, and once you step outside of it, the cold is absolute. You feel a quiet pressure in your chest, a soft, rhythmic tightening. This is the social obligation. It is a phantom that sits in every Victorian parlor. It whispers that you must go, because to stay is to be forgotten. And to be forgotten is to lose your place in the story of your community. Your name might be whispered behind fans, your absence analyzed until it becomes a scandal of its own making. Declining is difficult because it requires a social sacrifice you are not yet ready to make. You think of your family, your siblings, your parents. Your actions do not belong to you alone. If you offend the hostess, you offend her for your entire household. A single no, written in a moment of exhaustion, could ruin a sister's chances at a favorable marriage, or a brother's standing in his club. We are all connected, like the lace on a tablecloth, one thread pulled, and the whole pattern begins to unravel. So, you look at the silver inkwell on your desk. The ink is dark, like a deep, silent well. You realize there is only one path forward. You must accept. You must dip your pen and write the words of polite gratitude. Even if your heart longs for the silence of your garden, your hand must move across the paper with graceful compliance. The difficulty of declining is the ultimate proof of the era's power over the individual. It reminds you that you are part of a machine, a beautiful, gilded, velvet-lined machine, but a machine nonetheless. The gears are turning, and you must turn with them. You take a slow, deep breath. The air is cool, and as you prepare to write your acceptance, you feel a strange sense of surrender. The decision is made. The afternoon is set. The trap of politeness has snapped shut, and it feels, oddly, like a relief. The letter is now signed, sealed, and sent away by the hand of a servant. The decision is no longer yours to hold. The morning has stretched into the late hours of the forenoon, and the house has fallen into a strange, heavy stillness. This is the time of quiet anticipation. It is the long, slow breath before the plunge. You sit in your favorite chair, but you do not lean back. Even in your solitude, the invisible eyes of the afternoon are already upon you. Outside, the garden is a painting of greens and muted grays. The wind stirs the leaves of the oak tree, a soft, shushing sound that seems to echo the whispers of the parlor. You watch a single sparrow land on the stone bird bath. It is free to fly, free to sing, free to exist without a corset or a social code. But you are bound by the clock. The anticipation is not a sudden spark, it is a slow-burning fire, warming your skin but tightening your nerves. You find yourself looking at your hands. They are still. But inside, there is a flutter, like the wings of a moth trapped against a window pane. What will the afternoon bring? You begin to rehearse the scenes in your mind. The clink of the fine bone china, the steam rising from a silver pot, the polite, practiced smiles of the other guests. You anticipate the silences. In a Victorian tea room, silence is never empty. It is a space filled with judgment, with observation, with the unspoken words that hang in the humid air between people. The sunlight shifts across the carpet, a slow, golden finger marking the passage of time. Tick, tick, tick. You think of the dress waiting in the wardrobe. It is a structure of silk and bone, a shell you will soon inhabit. The anticipation is physical now. You feel it in the way you sit straighter, the way you smooth the fabric of your sleeves, even though no one is there to see. You are already becoming the version of yourself that the world expects. Is it excitement, or is it a quiet, polite dread? Perhaps it is both. The Victorian heart is a master of contradiction. You long to be included, to be part of the golden circle, yet you fear the moment the circle closes around you. You anticipate the effort of being effortless. To speak without stuttering, to eat without a crumb falling, to listen without your mind wandering to the dark, private corners of your own soul. You hear the distant sound of the kitchen. The faint, rhythmic beat of a wooden spoon against a bowl. The house is preparing, even if you are staying still. The anticipation is a shared ghost. The servants know. The walls seem to know. The very floorboards seem to hold their breath, waiting for the moment you step out of the door. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the darkness settle over your vision. In this darkness, the anticipation grows into a landscape. You see the drawing room, the heavy velvet curtains, the scent of lavender and old books. You hear the ghost of a laugh, high-pitched and fragile, like glass. You realize that the afternoon is not just a social event, it is a ritual. It is an ancient dance, and you are merely the latest person to learn the steps. The pressure is there, beneath the surface, like the weight of the deep ocean. Calm on the top, but heavy, so heavy, underneath. The clock strikes the hour. A deep, resonant chime that vibrates in the wood of your chair. The anticipation has reached its peak. The time for thinking is ending, and the time for becoming is about to begin. You stand up slowly, your movements deliberate and graceful. The morning room is now a memory. The afternoon is no longer a dream, it is a reality waiting at the top of the stairs. You take one last look at the garden, the sparrow is gone. Only the wind remains, whispering through the glass. It is time to prepare the body, for the mind is already there, sitting at the tea table, waiting for the first drop of tea to fall. The quiet is over. The performance is calling. The bedroom is bathed in the soft, filtered light of midday. You stand before the heavy, mahogany wardrobe, its doors slightly ajar, revealing the silent, waiting layers of your life. The invitation is on the vanity, a reminder of the mission ahead. Now begins the ritual of the choice. In the Victorian world, a dress is never just a garment. It is a visual language, a declaration of your rank, your mood, and your respect for the hostess. Even simplicity required careful preparation. You run your fingers along the rows of fabric. The silk is cool and fluid, the wool is sturdy, the muslin is light as a summer cloud. But today, the choice is a delicate dance. To be too fancy, to wear your finest evening silk to a 4 o'clock tea, would be seen as vulgarly eager. It would scream for attention in a way that is considered loud and unrefined. Yet, to be too simple, to wear your morning cotton, would be a silent insult to Mrs. Sterling. It would suggest that her table was not worth the effort of your transformation. You pull out a gown of muted lavender, its skirts heavy with the promise of rustling grace. You hold it against your frame, looking into the tall, silver-backed mirror. The color is proper. It does not demand to be noticed, yet it does not disappear into the wallpaper. This is the middle path. This is the Victorian ideal, to be perfectly appropriate, without being the center of the room. You feel the weight of the corset on the bed, waiting. It is the internal architecture of your social self. As you begin to dress, the quiet of the room is broken only by the soft, rhythmic whoosh of fabric and the metallic clink of stays being tightened. Each lace pulled is a breath surrendered to society. You are being molded, shaped into the silhouette of a lady. It is a physical pressure, mirroring the mental pressure of the invitation itself. You look at the lace at the throat, intricate, small, perfect. You wonder, does anyone truly see the hours of labor in these stitches? Or do they only see the result? In the Victorian era, the goal is to appear as if this perfection cost you nothing. As if you were born with this posture, born with this flawless hemline. The labor must be hidden. The struggle to breathe, the ache in your back, the worry over a loose thread, all must be buried under a layer of calm, shimmering silk. You turn slightly in the mirror, watching the way the light catches the drapery of the skirt. A tea party is an exercise in static movement. You will be sitting for hours, so the dress must look its best while you are still. The folds must fall just so. The waist must remain sharp. You are building a facade, a beautiful, velvet-lined fortress that will protect you from the sharp eyes of the other guests. The room feels warmer now, the scent of lavender sachets rising from the drawers. You think of the other women, right now, in their own rooms, standing before their own mirrors. Are they choosing blue? Are they choosing green? There is a quiet, unspoken competition in this preparation. To be the best dressed without appearing to have tried at all. It is an exhausting game, played with ribbons and buttons. You reach for the small, pearl-handled button hook on the vanity. One by one, the tiny globes of silk are fastened. Click, click, click. Each one is a commitment. You are locking yourself into the role. The transformation is nearly complete. The woman who sat by the window this morning, the one who felt the quiet dread, is being covered by layers of social armor. You take a slow, shallow breath. The silk feels smooth against your skin, a cool contrast to the warmth of your nervous heartbeat. You are ready, or at least, your reflection is. The dress is perfect. It is appropriate. It is safe. But as you stand there, perfectly still, you realize that the most difficult part of the dressing is not the clothes, but the face you must put on over them. The mask of effortless grace. The wardrobe doors are closed now. The room is silent again. The dress is chosen, the silhouette is set, and the afternoon is waiting just beyond the threshold of your door. The dress is now fastened, a shimmering shell of lavender silk that defines your silhouette. But in the Victorian world, the dress is merely the canvas. The true story, the subtle subtext of your social standing, is told through the accessories. You turn toward your vanity, where a small, velvet-lined box sits open. Inside lie your gloves. They are not mere coverings for the hands, they are the keepers of your dignity. You reach for them slowly. They are made of the finest kid leather, white as a fresh snowfall, and so thin they feel like a second skin. Putting on a glove is a ritual of patience. You begin with the fingertips, smoothing the leather over each joint, ensuring there is not a single wrinkle, not a single imperfection. The leather is cool, and it smells faintly of talcum powder and rosewater. To have a smudge on your glove, even the tiniest speck of dust, is to signal a lack of care. It is to suggest that you are unrefined. As you work the tiny, pearl buttons at the wrist, click, 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 you realize the physical limitation they impose. Your hands are now elegant, tapering, and utterly useless for manual labor. This is the message of the Victorian accessory. It says, I do not work. I am cared for. I am a lady. You flex your fingers, feeling the gentle, rhythmic pull of the leather. They are beautiful, but they are also a cage. Now, you turn your attention to the hat. It sits on a stand, a structure of straw, silk ribbons, and perhaps a single, delicate ostrich feather. A Victorian hat is not just fashion, it is a crown of propriety. To step outside without it would be unthinkable, a scandal that would echo through the streets. You lift it carefully, feeling its surprising weight. It carries the gravity of your reputation. But the most important accessory, the one that defines the afternoon tea party, is the parasol. You pick it up from the corner of the room. It is a marvel of ivory and lace, its handle carved into the shape of a blooming lily. Why a parasol, when the London sky is so often grey? It is because the Victorian lady must never be touched by the sun. A tan is the mark of the field hand, the worker, the woman who must labor beneath the open sky. The parasol is your portable shadow. It is the boundary between you and the harsh reality of the natural world. You press the small, brass catch, and the parasol opens with a soft, rhythmic thump. The lace canopy spreads out like a giant, delicate flower. Standing under it, the light in the room changes. It becomes filtered, soft, and infinitely flattering. You practice holding it. The angle must be just so, tilted slightly to frame your face, but never so low that you cannot see the eyes of those who approach you. The parasol is a tool of flirtation and defense. With a flick of the wrist, you can hide a smile, or block a gaze you do not wish to return. You look at yourself, fully adorned. The gloves, the hat, the parasol. They are the three pillars of your public self. Together, they create a barrier of exclusivity. You think about the cost of these items. The lace was made in a damp cellar by a woman whose eyes are failing. The ivory handle was brought from across an ocean. The silk ribbons were dyed in vats of chemicals. Your elegance is built upon a world of labor, yet your accessories must never show it. They must remain pristine, untouched, as if they fell from the sky in a velvet box. The room is very quiet now. The only sound is your own breathing, a little shallow, a little constrained. You realize that these accessories have changed the way you move. You cannot run. You cannot reach. You cannot even turn your head quickly without the hat shifting. You are being forced into a state of deliberate grace. Every movement must be slow, every gesture must be calculated. The anticipation of the tea party is now a physical sensation, held in the tips of your gloved fingers, and the weight of the silk ribbons against your neck. You fold the parasol back down, its lace edges clicking softly against the ivory handle. Click, click, click. You are ready to leave the sanctuary of your room. You are no longer just a person. You are a presentation. You are a collection of symbols, a walking testament to the rules of your class. As you walk toward the door, the rustle of your skirts and the faint scent of the leather gloves follow you like a shadow. The accessories are the final layer of your armor. They are the details that the other guests will scan with their sharp, practiced eyes. They will see the quality of the lace, the whiteness of the gloves, the angle of the hat. And in those small things, they will decide who you are. You take a deep breath, smelling the faint, metallic tang of the silver hatpin. The afternoon is no longer coming. It is here. And you are perfectly, painfully, beautifully prepared. The dress is chosen, the accessories are ready, but the canvas of the self, your own skin and hair, requires its own silent ceremony. You sit before your vanity mirror, a 3-paneled glass that reflects your profile from every angle, leaving no room for a single flaw to hide. This is grooming. In the Victorian world, it is not about vanity, it is about vigilance. To be well-groomed is to show that you have the time, the discipline, and the means to be perfect. You begin with your hair. It is the glory of the lady, yet it must be tamed. To leave a single strand loose is to suggest a loose character. You pick up the heavy, silver-backed brush. Brush, stroke, brush. The sound is a soft, rhythmic hiss against your scalp. You count the strokes, 50, 60, 70. It must shine like polished mahogany, smooth and unbroken by the humidity of the London air. As you begin to pin it up, your fingers move with a memory of their own. You create a chignon, a complex architecture of coils and braids at the nape of your neck. It must be high enough to show the elegance of your throat, but low enough to remain modest. You feel the cold, sharp bite of the hairpins as they slide into place. 1, 2, 10, 20 pins. Your head feels heavy, an ornamental weight you must carry with a steady, unmoving grace. You check the symmetry in the glass. Perfection is not a suggestion, it is a requirement. Next, you turn to your skin. The Victorian aesthetic is one of porcelain purity. You dip a soft, linen cloth into a bowl of chilled rosewater. The scent is faint, floral, and hauntingly nostalgic. You dab it across your forehead, your cheeks, your chin. It is cool, a momentary relief from the tightening of your corset. You do not use heavy paints, for a lady must never look painted. Only actresses and women of the night wear visible color. Instead, you use a hint of bloom of roses, a subtle, nearly invisible powder that warms your skin without betraying the secret of its application. You pinch your cheeks, just slightly, to bring a natural flush to the surface. You bite your lips, making them a soft, stung pink. It is a presentation of health and innocence. Even if you feel tired, even if you feel the weight of 1,000 social rules, your skin must tell the world that you are as fresh as a morning lily. Then, there is the scent. You reach for a small, crystal bottle with a golden stopper. You do not spray it. You dab a single, tiny drop of lavender or violet oil behind each ear, and at the pulse points of your wrists. In a crowded drawing room, a lady's scent should be a whisper, not a shout. It should be something felt only when someone leans in close to hear a secret. It is a lingering memory, a trail of elegance that follows you like a shadow. You look at your nails. They are buffed to a soft, pearly sheen. No polish, only the natural glow of health. You clean them with a small, ivory-handled tool, ensuring that not a speck of the world's dust remains. Your hands, after all, will be the focus of the afternoon. They will hold the translucent teacup, they will offer the silver tray, they will be watched for any sign of a tremor. They must be flawless instruments of etiquette. You stand up, and for the first time, the presentation is complete. You look into the mirror, and you see a masterpiece of restraint. Every hair is in its place. Every pore is softened. Every scent is balanced. You are a walking testament to self-control. This is the true meaning of Victorian grooming. It is the act of erasing the animal and elevating the soul. It is the quiet, rhythmic labor of becoming an ideal. You take a deep breath, smelling the rosewater and the faint, metallic tang of the hairpins. You are no longer just a woman. You are a social standard. The mirror reflects a person who is ready to be scrutinized by the most judgmental eyes in the city. The grooming is your internal armor. It gives you the confidence to step into the light, knowing that you have left nothing to chance. The clock on the wall strikes the final quarter hour. Dong, dong, dong. It is time. Your hair is set, your skin is luminous, and your spirit is steeled. You turn away from the mirror, leaving the messy reality of the dressing table behind. The brushes, the pins, the spilled powder, they are the secrets of the past. The future, the afternoon, the performance, is all that remains. You stand before the long, silver-backed mirror, and for a moment, you simply breathe. The transformation is complete. The dress is cinched, the gloves are smoothed, the hat is pinned with surgical precision. But now comes the most difficult task of all. The final layer of your costume. It is not made of silk or lace, it is made of silence. It is the quiet, crushing pressure to appear effortless. In the Victorian world, to show the labor behind your beauty is to fail. To look as if you have spent 3 hours at your vanity, to look as if your corset is stealing your breath, or to look as if you have rehearsed your greetings in the dark, is to be considered unrefined. The goal, the impossible goal, is to walk into Mrs. Sterling's drawing room as if you simply woke up this way. As if the elegance is as natural to you as the color of your eyes. You look at the faint, red marks on your wrists from the tight sleeves. You look at the slight, pale tension in your face from the weight of the hairpins. These are the secrets of the dressing room. They must be hidden. You take a soft, camel hair brush and gently dust a bit of pale powder over your skin, masking the flush of exertion. You are erasing the evidence of your own humanity. You are turning yourself into a statue of grace. Why is this illusion so important? It is because Victorian society worships the idea of natural superiority. If you look like you are trying too hard, it suggests that you do not truly belong. It suggests that you are an imposter, struggling to keep up with the gilded elite. But if you appear effortless, if you can smile through the pain of a pinched waist, if you can glide across a carpet without looking at your feet, then you are perceived as born to rule. You practice your resting face. It is a mask of serene, slightly distant kindness. Your lips must be soft, never pursed in worry. Your eyes must be bright, but never wide with anxiety. You watch your reflection as you practice a small, polite laugh. It must sound like a silver bell, not a gasp for air. Ha! 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 The sound echoes in the quiet room, feeling hollow yet necessary. Think of the quiet performance of your posture. You are expected to sit for 2 hours without ever touching the back of your chair. Your spine must be a straight, elegant line, held up by sheer willpower. And yet, you must look relaxed. You must look as if you are leaning on a cloud, rather than a cage of whalebone and steel. The pressure is constant, a rhythmic, pulsing ache that you must learn to ignore. To acknowledge the pain, even to yourself, is to break the spell. You reach for your fan, a delicate thing of sandalwood and painted silk. You open it with a practiced, fluid motion. Shh! Flick! The scent of the wood rises to meet you, grounding you for a moment. You use the fan to hide the tension in your jaw. You use it to create a private, cool breeze in the stifling heat of your own expectations. Even the way you hold the fan must look accidental, a casual gesture of a woman at ease. But we all know the truth. Behind every effortless woman at the tea party is a morning of frantic preparation. A maid who was scolded for a crooked hem. A bottle of smelling salts hidden in a pocket. A mind that is spinning with the names of guests and the correct topics of conversation. We are all performers in a grand, silent theater. And the highest praise we can receive is for someone to say, "She looks so perfectly, naturally herself." You take one last, deep, shallow breath, the most the corset will allow. You smooth the front of your lavender skirt one final time. The illusion is set. The effort is buried. The pressure is tucked away beneath the silk ribbons and the lace collars. You are no longer a tired woman who worried about an invitation. You are a vision. As you walk toward the door, your movements are slow, measured, and hauntingly graceful. The floorboards do not creak beneath your feet, or perhaps you have simply learned how to step so they stay silent. You are ready to enter the world of Mrs. Sterling. You are ready to be watched, to be judged, and to be admired. And no one, not a single soul, will ever know how much it cost you to look this simple. The carriage is waiting outside. The horses are restless, their hoofs striking the cobblestones with a rhythmic, impatient beat. You step out into the light, the parasol rising like a shield. The preparation is over. The performance has begun. You take one final look in the mirror, but this time, you are not looking for beauty. You are looking for errors. In the Victorian world, your appearance is a map, and every stitch is a coordinate that tells the world exactly where you belong. It is a world of subtle distinctions. To the untrained eye, 2 women in silk might look the same. But in the drawing room of Mrs. Sterling, there are no untrained eyes. Every guest is an expert in the architecture of class. You look at the lace at your cuffs. Is it handmade Huntington, or is it machine-made from a factory in Nottingham? To the wealthy, the difference is as loud as a shout. Machine-made lace carries a certain, repetitive stiffness, a lack of the tiny, human imperfections that mark the work of a master lace-maker. If your lace is too perfect, it is cheap. If it is too delicate, it is a fortune. These are the silent markers that define your worth before you even say hello. You adjust your sleeves, feeling the weight of the silk. There is a difference between new money and old money in the very weave of the fabric. The newly wealthy often wear silk that is too shiny, too loud, too stiff with a chemical sizing that makes it rustle with a metallic clink. But the old aristocracy, the families who have lived in the same drafty manners for centuries, they prefer soft silk. Fabric that has been worn and cleaned until it flows like water. To look brand new is to look like an upstart. To look timeless is to look like power. Think of the fit of the bodice. A woman of the upper class has a dressmaker who visits her home. The dress is molded to her specific spine, her specific shoulders, until it fits like a second skin. A woman of the striving middle class might buy a paper pattern and sew it herself, or employ a cheap seamstress. The result is a tiny, almost invisible gap at the neck or a slight bunching of fabric at the waist. These small folds of failure are what the hostesses look for. They are the cracks in the armor. You look at your gloves again. Are they kid leather or suede finished cotton? The difference is in the way the light hits them. True leather has a soft, organic glow, while the imitation looks flat, dull, and slightly gray under the afternoon sun. Even the way you hold your parasol reveals your history. A woman whose mother was a lady knows how to balance the ivory handle in the crook of her elbow without looking. A woman who is learning to be a lady holds it too tightly, her knuckles white with the effort of her own performance. There is also the matter of grooming as a class marker. It is not just about being clean. It is about the quality of cleanliness. The wealthy have access to warm water, expensive soaps scented with imported oils, and servants to scrub the unreachable places. Their skin has a certain luminous transparency, a lack of the weathered look that comes from a life of even minor chores. If your hands are too red, too rough, or if there is a faint, lingering scent of the kitchen on your skin, the drawing room will smell it. It is a scent that no amount of lavender oil can truly hide. You realize that this preparation is not just for yourself. It is a border control. By wearing the right lace, the right silk, and the right fit, you are proving that you belong inside the gates. You are signaling to the others that you speak their secret language. But it is a fragile thing. A single, misplaced ribbon, or a hat that is one season out of style, could mark you as falling. In the Victorian age, you are either rising, or you are sinking. There is no such thing as standing still. You pick up your fan and snap it shut. Snap. The sound is sharp, final. You have scrutinized every inch of your presentation. You have checked the seams, the buttons, the lace, and the skin. You are as perfect as your station allows. You feel a quiet, cold pride. You have navigated the minefield of class, and you have emerged as a lady of standing. The carriage is waiting. As you walk toward it, you hear the heavy, rhythmic sound of the horses breathing. They don't care about your lace. The gravel beneath your boots doesn't care about the quality of your silk. But the people you are about to meet, they care about nothing else. You step into the dark, velvet interior of the carriage, the door closing with a heavy, muffled thud. The preparation is over. The presentation is now in motion. You lean back, but your spine remains straight, never touching the upholstery. For even in the dark of a moving carriage, you are a Victorian. And a Victorian is always, always being watched. The carriage moves with a slow, rhythmic sway, a velvet-lined cradle that carries you away from the safety of your home. You watch through the small, glass window as the familiar streets of London blur into a series of grey stone facades and wrought iron railings. Every turn of the wheel is a step closer to the stage. Your heart beats a little faster, a soft, drumming rhythm beneath your silk bodice, but your face remains a mask of cool, undisturbed porcelain. A single glance could quietly define one's place. The carriage slows. You hear the driver's voice, muffled and low, commanding the horses to a halt. The sound of iron-rimmed wheels against the cobblestones creates a final, grinding crunch, and then, silence. It is a heavy silence, filled with the weight of what is about to happen. You are now in front of Mrs. Sterling's residence. It is a house that breathes authority, its windows like dark, observant eyes, its front door a massive, polished slab of oak. Before the door even opens, the arrival has already begun. In the Victorian world, how you step out of a carriage is your first sentence. The footman reaches for the handle. Click-clack. The door swings wide, and the cool, afternoon air rushes in, smelling of damp pavement and coal smoke. You do not rush. You wait for the footman's hand, placing your gloved fingers lightly, barely touching his sleeve. You step down, 1, 2, your skirts rustling like a long, soft sigh against the stone. You stand for a moment on the pavement, centering yourself. The house loomed over you, grand and intimidating. You check the grip on your parasol. You check the tilt of your hat. You are not just a guest, you are a visitor of note. You walk toward the steps, your movements slow, deliberate, and hauntingly graceful. Tap, tap, tap. The sound of your leather soles on the stone steps is the only announcement of your presence. You reach the door. You do not knock. In a house of this standing, the butler is already there, sensing your arrival like a predator senses a change in the wind. The door opens before your hand can even rise. It moves silently, on hinges that are oiled with the precision of a clock. Standing there is the butler, a man whose face is a map of professional indifference. He does not smile. He does not welcome you with warmth. He welcomes you with procedure. You step into the hallway. The air here is different. It is thick with the scent of floor wax, expensive lilies, and the lingering, metallic tang of silver polish. It is a sanctuary of wealth. The transition from the street to the interior is a transition from the common world to the sacred space of society. You feel the eyes of the portraits on the walls, ancestors in gilded frames, watching to see if you are worthy of their descendants' parlor. The butler takes your card, placing it on a small, silver tray. You watch his gloved hand, noting the way he handles the paper. In this house, even the way a card is carried is a measurement of respect. He gestures toward the grand staircase, or perhaps the heavy, velvet curtains that lead to the drawing room. Your coat, your wrap, your parasol are taken from you. You are being unpeeled, layer by layer, until only the social version of yourself remains. You catch a glimpse of your reflection in a large, gold-leaf mirror in the hall. For a split second, you see the tension in your own eyes. But you blink, and the tension vanishes, replaced by that effortless calm you practiced all morning. You are now a part of this house's atmosphere. You are no longer an individual, you are an element. The sound of distant voices begins to drift toward you, a low, rhythmic hum of polite conversation and the delicate, crystalline clink of china. The tea party is already in motion. The performance has started without you, and now, you must find your place in the choreography. The butler moves toward the drawing room door, his hand reaching for the brass handle. You take one last, shallow breath. The corset holds you firm. The silk protects you. The grooming sustains you. The door begins to open, a sliver of warm, golden light spilling out onto the dark, polished floor of the hallway. The arrival is over. The entrance is now. And as the butler clears his throat to announce your name, you realize that for the next 2 hours, every blink, every breath, and every word will be a part of the history of this room. The heavy oak doors swing open, and the sound of the drawing room washes over you like a soft, rhythmic tide. You step across the threshold, leaving the quiet hallway behind. Now, the most critical moment of the afternoon begins. The greeting. In the Victorian world, a greeting is not a simple hello. It is a complex, silent grammar, a series of movements that tell everyone in the room exactly who you are, and who you think they are. You spot your hostess, Mrs. Sterling, standing near the center of the room. She is the sun around which this small, gilded universe rotates. You do not rush toward her. To rush is to show a lack of composure, a common eagerness that has no place here. Instead, you glide. Your skirts whisper against the heavy Persian rug. Shh, shh, shh. A soft, rhythmic announcement of your approach. As you reach her, you stop exactly 3 paces away. This is the sacred distance of Victorian etiquette. You do not reach out your hand first. Never. In this world, the person of higher social standing, or the hostess in her own home, must be the one to initiate physical contact. You wait, your hands folded lightly over your fan, your eyes meeting hers with a soft, practiced kindness. Mrs. Sterling offers her hand, and you take it, but only for a fleeting, ghostly second. A Victorian handshake is not a firm, modern grip. It is a gesture of recognition. You touch only the fingers, a cool, gloved contact that feels like the brush of a butterfly's wing. There is no shaking, no heat, only a momentary acknowledgement of presence. Then comes the curtsy. It is not the deep, dramatic dip of the ballroom, but a social curtsy. A subtle, fluid lowering of the body, keeping your spine as straight as a silver needle. As you descend, you feel the rhythmic pull of your silk skirts and the steady, unyielding support of your corset. You rise again, a single, unbroken motion. If you wobble, even slightly, the room will notice. If your eyes drop too low, you seem timid. If they stay too high, you seem arrogant. Everything must be in perfect, quiet balance. Now, the verbal exchange begins. "My dear Mrs. Sterling, how kind of you to remember me." The words are hollow, but the tone is everything. It must be low, melodic, and entirely devoid of genuine excitement. Excitement is for children, or the uneducated. Here, restraint is the highest form of beauty. You listen to her response, noting the subtle, rhythmic rise and fall of her voice. Is there a hidden edge to her words? Is she welcoming you, or simply tolerating you? You must also acknowledge the other guests. A slight, rhythmic inclination of the head to the left, then to the right. You do not speak to everyone. To do so would be exhausting and improper. You only recognize those to whom you have been formally introduced. To speak to a stranger, even in a friend's house, is to commit a social trespass. You move through the room like a chess piece, following the invisible lines of rank and seniority. The air in the room is thick with the scent of lilies, expensive tea, and the underlying, metallic smell of silver. Every greeting you witness is a lesson in power. You watch a younger woman greet an older duchess. The curtsy is deeper, the silence longer, the deference absolute. You watch 2 rivals greet each other. The smiles are bright, but the eyes remain cold, like chips of blue ice. It is a war of politeness, fought with bows and whispers. Think of the quiet performance of your eyes. You must never stare. A lady's gaze should be diffused. You see everything, but you look at nothing directly. You observe the quality of a neighbor's lace, the freshness of the flowers on the mantel, the way the butler stands by the door. All of this is part of the greeting. You are reading the room, and the room is reading you. You feel the weight of the social expectations, a rhythmic, pulsing pressure behind your temples. But you do not show it. You move toward a vacant chair, the greeting complete. You have successfully entered the circle. You have not stumbled. You have not spoken too loudly. You have used the grammar of the elite, and for now, you are safe. As you settle into your seat, never letting your back touch the wood, you take a shallow, rhythmic breath. The first hurdle is over. The performance is in full swing. The tea has not yet been poured, but the social outcome of the afternoon is already being decided, one bow, one curtsy, and one whispered greeting at a time. The clock on the mantel ticks, tick, tick, tick. The sound is sharp, like the flick of a fan. The room is full of people, yet it feels strangely, hauntingly quiet. For in a Victorian greeting, what is not said is always more important than what is spoken aloud. You have survived the greeting, the threshold has been crossed. But as you take your seat, you feel it. The collective gaze. In a Victorian drawing room, the first impression is not a moment, it is an audit. Every person in this room is a silent judge, and you are currently on the stand. They are not looking at your soul, they are looking at the surface. For in this era, the surface is believed to be the map of the soul. You sit with your spine perfectly straight, your hands resting like pale, still lilies on your lap. You feel the eyes of Lady Althea from across the room. She does not stare, that would be ill-bred. Instead, her gaze flickers over you like the tongue of a serpent. In that one rhythmic sweep, she has measured the quality of your silk, the freshness of your gloves, and the authenticity of your posture. She is looking for a crack. A stray hair, a nervous twitch, a scuff on a shoe. To her, a single flaw is a confession of hidden chaos. Think of the psychology of the first impression. To a Victorian, your appearance is your moral duty. If you look untidy, it is assumed your mind is untidy. If you look overly decorated, it is assumed your character is shallow. You are caught in a delicate, rhythmic balance. You must be interesting enough to be noticed, but quiet enough to be respected. You are a visual symphony, and any sour note will echo in the gossip of the town for weeks. You watch a newcomer enter the room. A young man, perhaps a distant cousin of the host. You find yourself doing the same. Scan, assess, categorize. You notice the way he holds his hat. Is it with a natural, rhythmic ease? Or does he grip it as if it were a shield? You notice his boots. Are they polished to a mirror shine, or can you see the faint, dull shadow of a hurried morning? In the silence of the room, these details speak louder than any conversation. The first impression is a social seal. Once it is set, it is almost impossible to break. If you are categorized as dull, you will be spoken to with polite, rhythmic boredom for the rest of the afternoon. If you are categorized as vain, every word you speak will be filtered through a lens of suspicion. There is no room for a second chance. The Victorian world moves slowly, but it judges in an instant. You feel the pressure of the unspoken standard. It is a weight that sits behind your eyes. You realize that even the way you breathe is being judged. Is your chest rising too high? That suggests agitation. Are you looking at the floor? That suggests guilt or low birth. You must maintain a horizon gaze, looking just past people, into a middle distance of calm, aristocratic indifference. It is an exhausting, rhythmic performance of the eyes. The room is a theater of mirrors. Everyone is reflecting what they think the others want to see. You see a woman adjust her fan, a tiny, rhythmic flick of the wrist. To an outsider, it is a gesture of heat. To you, it is a signal of impatience. You see a gentleman adjust his waistcoat. A signal of insecurity. We are all reading the code, and we are all terrified of being misread ourselves. The first impression also dictates the hierarchy of attention. The person who made the most proper impression will be the one the hostess turns to first. They will be given the best tea, the most choice cake, the most engaging topic. Those who failed the initial audit, who look common or flustered, will find themselves on the periphery, drifting in a sea of polite, rhythmic neglect. You take a slow, shallow breath, feeling the silk of your bodice move against your skin. You have passed the first test. You can tell by the way Mrs. Sterling's eyes linger on you for a second longer than the others. It is a nod of approval. You are accepted, for now. The first impression has been cast in wax, and it is favorable. But the audit never truly ends. Every movement you make from this point on must confirm that first impression. You are now a prisoner of your own perfection. You must live up to the image you have created. The clock on the wall continues its steady, rhythmic march. Tick, tick, tick. The tea is being prepared, and as the steam begins to rise, you prepare yourself for the next phase of the ordeal. The eyes of the room are still there, hovering just at the edge of your vision. You remain still. You remain proper. You remain the version of yourself that they demand. The room is now full, a sea of silk, wool, and the soft, rhythmic clink of silver spoons. But beneath the polite hum of conversation, there is another language being spoken. A language of subtle cues. In the Victorian world, to speak your mind directly is to be common. Instead, we speak with our fans, our eyes, and the very angle of our bodies. To survive this afternoon, you must be a master of translation. You watch Mrs. Sterling across the rug. She is speaking to a young baronet, but look closer. She is holding her fan closed, tapping it rhythmically against her palm. Tap, tap, tap. To the young man, it looks like a nervous habit. To you, it is a warning. It is the Victorian signal for impatience, a silent command for him to finish his story and move along. If he were wise, he would see the tension in the silk of her glove, the way her thumb presses against the ivory guard. But he does not see. He is failing the test of the unspoken. Think of the language of the fan. It is a woman's most potent weapon. A fan held to the right cheek means yes. To the left, no. A fan snapped shut with a sharp, rhythmic crack is a social execution. It means the conversation is dead. You see a woman in the corner. Lady Beatrice. She is fluttering her fan rapidly, a blur of painted lace. She is signaling agitation. Perhaps she has spotted a rival, or perhaps her tea is too cold, but she would never say so with her lips. Her fan says it for her, a rhythmic, frantic heartbeat made of silk. You turn your attention to the geography of the body. Notice how the guests are seated. The way a gentleman leans, or does not lean, toward his neighbor. If a man turns his shoulders slightly away, a mere fraction of an inch, he is snubbing the person next to him. It is a social coldness that is more effective than any shout. You see two sisters sitting on a sofa. They are perfectly still, but their feet, hidden beneath layers of crinoline, are pointed toward the door. They are escaping in their minds, even as their faces remain trapped in a polite, rhythmic smile. And then, there are the eyes. The Victorian gaze is a masterpiece of misdirection. You must never look too long at a person's face. It is intrusive. Instead, we look at the proxies. You watch a woman examine the embroidery on another's sleeve. She is not admiring the work. She is calculating the cost. She is looking for the tiny, rhythmic unevenness of a tired needle, a sign that the wearer is struggling to maintain her status. We look at the fireplace, we look at the tea tray, we look at the dust motes dancing in the light, but we see everything. The cues of the tea service are perhaps the most dangerous of all. Watch the hostess as she pours. Does she offer the sugar tongs with a lingering, rhythmic grace? Or does she drop the cube into the cup with a tiny, metallic clank? That sound is a judgment. A splash of tea on the saucer is not an accident, it is a signal of disfavor. If you receive your cup with the handle turned away from you, it is a silent, rhythmic hurdle you must cross to prove your composure. You must turn it back slowly, without a sound, and without looking down. You feel the invisible threads of the room tightening. It is a rhythmic, pulsing web of information. You realize that every person here is sending and receiving 1,000 signals a minute. Is that a genuine smile, or is the skin around the eyes too still? Is that a nod of agreement, or a rhythmic, condescending dismissal? You must filter the noise. You must find the truth hidden in the tilt of a hat, the smoothing of a glove, the clearing of a throat. You take a sip of your tea, the porcelain warm against your lips. You are careful not to let the spoon touch the side of the cup. Silence. Silence is the ultimate cue. A pause that lasts 1 second too long is a question. A pause that is too short is aggression. You are navigating a minefield of rhythmic intervals. You look at the clock. The pendulum swings left, right, left, right. It is the only honest thing in the room. You realize that you are also sending cues. The way you hold your saucer, the way you tilt your head to listen, the way you keep your breathing shallow and rhythmic. You are telling them that you are one of them. You are signaling your compliance with the rules. And as long as you keep your fan still and your shoulders square, the room will continue to tolerate your presence. The air is thick with the weight of these unspoken truths. It is exhausting to be this vigilant. But in the Victorian world, to stop reading the cues is to lose your way in the dark. You adjust your grip on your teacup, a tiny, rhythmic movement. You are still in the game. You are still proper. And the dance, the silent, beautiful, cruel dance, continues. The room is now a living, breathing map of power. You sit in your chair, feeling the cool silk of your skirts, but your mind is busy measuring. In the Victorian world, no two people are ever truly equal. There is always a ladder, an invisible, rigid hierarchy that dictates who may speak, who must listen, and who is allowed to sit nearest to the warmth of the fire. To navigate this tea party is to understand your altitude. Look at the seating arrangement. It is not accidental. The hostess, Mrs. Sterling, has choreographed this room with the precision of a general. The place of honor is the velvet armchair closest to her right hand. Today, it is occupied by the Dowager Countess. She sits there like a monument of ancient, rhythmic authority. Her lace is older, her diamonds are larger, and her silence is the loudest thing in the room. She is at the top of the ladder, and every other guest is a step below her. You notice the gravity of attention. When the Countess speaks, the room experiences a collective, rhythmic pause. Conversations elsewhere die down, not because of a command, but because of a social instinct. To speak over her would be a catastrophe. To disagree with her would be an exile. You see a younger woman, perhaps a distant niece, leaning forward slightly. She is waiting for permission to exist in the Countess's orbit. It is a rhythmic, subservient dance of the head and shoulders. Think of the hierarchy of the tea tray. When the butler brings the fresh pot, who is served first? The order of service is a declaration of rank. The silver tray moves in a slow, rhythmic circle, but it does not follow the shortest path. It follows the path of precedence. The countess first, then the elder ladies, then the married women, and finally, the young, unmarried girls. If you are served last, you are being reminded of your newness, your lesser weight in the scale of the world. You feel your own place on the ladder. You are neither at the top, nor at the bottom. You are in the anxious middle. It is a position of constant, rhythmic vigilance. You must be deferential to those above you, but you must maintain a certain, cool distance from those below. You watch a woman who has married into money. She is trying too hard. She laughs too loudly at the countess's dry jokes. The room senses her desperation. Her place on the ladder is slippery, and she is clutching at the rungs with trembling, gloved hands. There is also a hierarchy of topics. Only those of a certain rank may introduce a new subject of conversation. If you are of a lower standing, you are an accompanist. You provide the nods, the indeeds, the rhythmic, polite murmurs that support the soloist. To change the subject abruptly is to usurp the hostess's power. It is a silent, social coup d'état. You wait for your turn to speak, your heart beating with a slow, rhythmic thud against your ribs. You look at the physical distance between people. The closer you are allowed to sit to the center of the room, the more significant you are. Those on the periphery, the quiet cousins, the poor relations, the governesses invited out of pity, they sit in the shadows near the heavy velvet curtains. They are the background of the painting. They drink their tea in a rhythmic, muffled silence, knowing that their role is to be seen, but never truly heard. The air in the room feels stratified, like layers of different temperatures. Near the countess, it is cold and formal. Near the younger guests, it is slightly warmer, filled with the rhythmic flutter of fans and suppressed giggles. But even the laughter is hierarchical. You must never laugh louder than your superior. You must never be more clever than the hostess. You are a satellite, and you must stay in your assigned orbit. The clock on the mantel strikes the half-hour. Dong, dong. The sound is a reminder that the hierarchy is eternal. It existed before you were born, and it will exist long after your silk dress has turned to dust. You adjust your posture, ensuring your shoulders are perfectly aligned with your rank. You are a part of the grand design. There is a strange, rhythmic comfort in knowing exactly where you stand, even if the ladder is steep and the climb is exhausting. The countess lifts her teacup, a tiny, rhythmic movement of her wrist. The room holds its breath. The queen is about to speak. You lean in just a fraction of an inch, showing your proper interest. The arrival is distant now. The first impressions are set. Now, the true social performance begins, played out on the rungs of an invisible, beautiful, and merciless ladder. The movement of the room shifts. The conversation does not stop, but it softens, a rhythmic, collective exhale as all eyes turn toward the center of the drawing room. There stands the tea table. In the Victorian home, this is not merely furniture. It is an altar. It is the heart of the afternoon, a stage where the hostess proves her worth and the guests prove their breeding. You look at the arrangement, and you see a masterpiece of order and symmetry. First, there is the linen. A cloth of pure, blindingly white damask. It has been starched until it is as stiff as a sheet of ice, and ironed until not a single wrinkle remains. You can see the faint, rhythmic pattern of woven lilies in the fabric, catching the golden light of the afternoon. In this world, a stained cloth is a moral failure. It suggests a household in decay. But here, the linen is perfect, a clean slate for the social drama that is about to unfold. At the center sits the silver service. It is a heavy, rhythmic collection of polished metal. The teapot, the water urn, the cream jug, and the sugar basin. They are made of solid sterling, reflecting the room in their curved, mirror-like surfaces. You see a distorted version of yourself in the side of the urn, a tiny, silk-clad figure lost in a sea of silver. The silver is not just for show, it is a shield of status. It must be polished until it glows, a task that took a servant hours of rhythmic, aching labor in a dark pantry. Next to the silver sits the porcelain. It is bone china, so thin and translucent that if you held a cup to the window, you could see the shadow of your own fingers through it. Each cup is a fragile, rhythmic miracle of gold leaf and hand-painted violets. To handle these cups is to handle reputation itself. If one should break, the sound would be like a gunshot in the silence of the room. The saucers are stacked with mathematical precision, a rhythmic, porcelain tower that represents the stability of the house. Then, the food. It is arranged in a tiered hierarchy of its own. On the lowest level of the silver stand are the sandwiches. They are tiny, rhythmic rectangles of white bread, with the crusts removed as if they never existed. Inside, thin slices of cucumber, so transparent they are like green glass. Above them, the scones, warm and tucked into a linen napkin to keep their heat. And at the very top, the sweets. Petit fours, tiny cakes glazed in pastel pink and lemon yellow, decorated with single, crystallized rose petals. Everything is small. In the Victorian tea party, hunger is considered impolite. You are not here to eat, you are here to taste. The table is designed for graceful consumption. There are no large plates, no heavy forks. Only small, silver tongs and delicate, rhythmic napkins. You realize that the arrangement of the table is a trap of elegance. It is designed to be beautiful, but also to be difficult to navigate without making a sound. You notice the balance of the instruments. The sugar tongs rest at a perfect 45-degree angle. The tea strainer is placed exactly to the left of the teapot. There is a rhythmic, visual music to the setup. If a single spoon were out of place, the harmony of the room would be shattered. You feel a quiet, rhythmic tension in your chest just looking at it. It is a landscape of rules made visible. The hostess, Mrs. Sterling, takes her place behind the urn. She is the conductor of this silent orchestra. She looks over the table, her eyes scanning the silver, the linen, and the porcelain. For a split second, she adjusts the position of a tiny, silver cream jug. A fraction of an inch to the left. Now, it is perfect. Now, the ritual may begin. The steam begins to rise from the urn, a slow, rhythmic curl of white vapor against the dark wood of the walls. It carries the scent of Earl Grey, bergamot and smoke, a smell that signifies the beginning of the end of the afternoon. You prepare yourself. You smooth your gloves, you check your posture. The table is ready, and now, the guests must be ready too. As the first cup is lifted, the sound of the room changes. The hum of voices is joined by the rhythmic, metallic tink of a silver spoon against china. The tea table has claimed its victims. The performance has moved from the chairs to the plates. And as you wait for your turn to be served, you realize that every crumb, every drop, and every movement at this table will be a testament to your place in the world. The table is set, a landscape of white and silver, but now, your eyes begin to drift toward the details. The porcelain. In this room, the china is not just a vessel for tea, it is a test of blood. You look at the cup being offered to you. It is Minton or perhaps Sèvres, porcelain so thin it feels like a frozen breath. You can see the faint, rhythmic dance of the firelight through the sides of the bowl. The pattern is a filigree of gold, hand-painted with tiny, blue forget-me-nots that seem to float on the surface of the white glaze. As your gloved fingers brush against the handle, you feel the coolness of the clay. It has been fired in kilns hundreds of miles away, polished by hands you will never meet, to arrive here, on this specific, rhythmic afternoon. To hold such a cup is to hold fragility itself. If you were to squeeze too hard, if your hand were to tremble with a rhythmic, nervous beat, the porcelain would surely shatter. It is a physical reminder that in the Victorian world, beauty is glass. One wrong move, and it is gone forever. Then, there are the cakes. They are arranged on a silver epergne, a tiered tower of indulgence that rises from the center of the table. On the middle tier, sit the petit fours. They are tiny, rhythmic cubes of sponge cake, encased in a shell of fondant as smooth as polished marble. Some are a pale, mint green, others a soft, dusty rose. On top of each one, sits a single, crystallized violet. It is a real flower, preserved in sugar, a tiny, purple jewel that is almost too beautiful to eat. You look at the scones. They are nestled in a basket lined with a lace-edged napkin, kept warm by the rhythmic, rising steam of the tea urn. They are small, golden, and dusted with a fine, white powder of sugar. Next to them, a small, silver bowl of clotted cream. It is thick, yellow, and rich, looking like a dollop of captured sunlight. And beside it, the strawberry preserve. It is a deep, ruby red, filled with whole, tiny berries that have been simmered until they are translucent. In the Victorian mind, these are not just treats. They are symbols of abundance, a rhythmic, edible proof of the hostess's generosity. And finally, the tea service itself. The teapot is the heart of the machine. It is made of repoussé silver, its surface covered in a rhythmic, chaotic garden of engraved roses and vines. You watch the steam escaping from the spout, a thin, white ribbon that curls and vanishes into the humid air of the room. The tea inside is a precious commodity, brought from the mountains of Darjeeling or the gardens of Ceylon. It is a liquid gold, darkened by the rhythmic, slow infusion of leaves. Next to the teapot sits the sugar basin. It does not hold granulated sugar, but sugar cubes, perfectly white, perfectly square. You watch the hostess use the sugar tongs, a small, silver instrument shaped like the claws of a bird. Click, clack. She lifts a single cube with a rhythmic, steady hand. The sound of the sugar hitting the bottom of the porcelain cup is a tiny, muffled thud. It is a sound that signifies privilege. For in this era, sugar is still a luxury, a rhythmic, sweet reminder of the empire's reach. You notice the tea caddy. It is a small, wooden box with a silver lock. In many households, the tea is kept under lock and key, too valuable to be left to the servants. The hostess herself holds the key on a ribbon at her waist. Opening the caddy is a ritual of scents. The dry leaves smell of earth, wood, and distant, sun-drenched hills. As she measures the tea into the pot, the rhythmic, metallic scratch of the silver scoop is the only sound in the room. The table is a microcosm of the world. The porcelain from France, the tea from India, the sugar from the West Indies, the silver from the mines of the Americas. All of it has converged here, on this starched, white cloth, for this one, rhythmic hour. You feel the weight of this global choreography. You are part of a massive, invisible network of trade and toil, all so that you may sit here, in a lavender silk dress, and sip from a painted cup. The room is very quiet now, the only sound the rhythmic, steady ticking of the clock and the soft, bubbling sigh of the tea urn. You reach for a small, silver plate, your movements slow and deliberate. You choose a single, pink petit four. You feel the eyes of the room watching your choice. Was it too fast? Was it too greedy? You place the cake on your plate with a rhythmic, silent grace. The symphony has begun. The porcelain is warm, the cakes are sweet, and the tea service is glowing in the fading light. Every movement you make now, every bite you take, must be as harmonious as the table itself. You take a shallow breath, tasting the air, which is now thick with the scent of bergamot, sugar, and old, polished silver. The room has reached its silent, rhythmic peak. All eyes are now focused on the hostess, Mrs. Sterling, as she reaches for the heavy, silver handle of the teapot. This is the moment of liquid grace. In the Victorian world, the act of pouring tea is not a chore, it is a sacrament of status. How she pours, in what order, and with what level of silence, will determine the success of the entire afternoon. You watch her fingers, gloved and steady, as they wrap around the cool, ornate silver. First, comes the great Victorian debate. Milk in first, or tea in first? To the observer, it is a simple preference. To the Victorian, it is a social ledger. Traditionally, the milk is poured into the cup first to protect the delicate, fragile bone china from the sudden, rhythmic shock of the boiling tea. If the china is thin enough, the heat could crack the glaze, a tiny, sharp snap that would signal a lack of quality. But in a house of this standing, the porcelain is so fine, so resilient, that the tea is often poured first, to show that the cup has nothing to fear. You watch as she tilts the pot. It is a slow, rhythmic, and deliberate motion. The spout is positioned exactly an inch above the rim of the cup. Too high, and the tea will splash, creating a rhythmic, messy staccato on the white damask cloth. Too low, and it looks hesitant, as if she fears the weight of her own silver. Instead, a perfect, amber stream begins to fall. It is silent. A quiet flow that fills the cup without a single bubble, without a single drop misplaced. The sound of the tea hitting the porcelain is a soft, rhythmic hiss. It is the sound of hospitality and control. As the cup fills, the steam rises in a thin, white ribbon, carrying the sharp, citrus scent of bergamot to your nose. Mrs. Sterling stops the flow with a tiny, expert flick of the wrist. Not a single drip escapes the spout. To have a drip on the silver is a sign of a distracted mind, a hostess who has lost her rhythmic, social grip. Next, the additions. She lifts the silver sugar tongs. Click, click. She looks at you, a silent, rhythmic question in her eyes. 1 lump, or 2? You respond with a tiny, measured nod. 1, if you please. She drops the cube into the tea. It must not splash. It must slide into the amber liquid like a secret into a grave. Then, the silver cream jug is tilted. A tiny, rhythmic cloud of white swirls into the dark tea, turning it the color of a pale, morning fog. Now comes the delivery. The cup is placed on its saucer with a rhythmic, silent precision. The handle of the cup must be turned toward the right, at exactly a 4 o'clock position. This is for your convenience, but it is also a test. Can you pick it up without looking? Can you slide your finger through the narrow, gold-painted loop without the porcelain chiming against the saucer? The hostess offers the saucer to you, and you reach out, your movements mirroring hers, slow, steady, and rhythmic. You hold the saucer in your left hand, the cup in your right. You must never, ever, lift the cup without its saucer. They are a social unit. You feel the warmth of the tea vibrating through the thin walls of the china. It is a comforting, rhythmic heat, but you do not drink yet. You must wait for the hostess to lift her own cup. You must wait for the signal of consumption. To drink too early is greedy. To wait too long is insulting. You notice the rhythm of the room change as the others are served. The clink of silver spoons, the soft, muffled sighs of the tea urn, the rhythmic, polite murmurs of gratitude. Thank you, Mrs. Sterling. Exquisite tea, Mrs. Sterling. The words are a rhythmic, ritualistic chant. We are all acknowledging the power of the pour. We are all acknowledging that for this moment, the hostess is the giver of life in this gilded parlor. Think of the mechanical perfection required. To pour 20 cups of tea, to remember who takes sugar, who takes lemon, who prefers it strong, and who prefers it weak. It is an act of social memory. Mrs. Sterling does not use a list. She uses her instinct. To forget a guest's preference is a social sin. It suggests that they are not important enough to be remembered. So she pours, and she remembers, a rhythmic, mental dance of names and tastes. The tea in your cup is now at the perfect temperature. You lift it to your lips, your elbow tucked close to your side, your spine as straight as the silver urn. You do not blow on the tea to cool it. That would be vulgar. You wait for the air of the room to do the work for you. And then, you take your first sip. It is warm, bitter, and sweet all at once. A rhythmic, liquid reflection of the Victorian world itself. The pouring is over, but the ritual is just beginning. The pot is returned to its stand, the silver lid closed with a tiny, rhythmic click. The stream has stopped, but the influence of that amber liquid is already moving through the room, loosening tongues, softening hearts, and tightening the bonds of the social circle. You settle back into your chair, the warm porcelain a weight in your hand, and prepare for the conversation to follow. The tea is poured, the steam rises in a slow, rhythmic ghost of white against the mahogany walls. Now comes the most perilous part of the afternoon. Eating. In the Victorian world, to eat is to reveal your upbringing. It is a physical test of self-control. You look at the silver-tiered stand, its plates heavy with tiny, rhythmic treasures. But you do not reach for the largest piece. You do not reach for the one you truly desire. You wait. You wait for the rhythm of the room to tell you it is time. You choose a cucumber sandwich, a tiny, rhythmic rectangle of bread so thin it seems almost transparent. You do not use a fork. These are finger foods, but they must be handled with the precision of a surgeon. You lift it with the tips of your gloved fingers, or perhaps you have removed your right glove, tucking it discreetly into your lap. The bread is cool, the butter is light, and the cucumber is a crisp, rhythmic snap against your palate. But there is a rule, a silent law of the mouth. You must never take a bite larger than a shilling. To open your mouth wide is animalistic. To chew with anything but a closed, rhythmic jaw is a social execution. You take a tiny, delicate nibble. You chew slowly, keeping your lips pressed together, your breathing shallow and quiet. You must be able to swallow and speak in a single, rhythmic second, should the hostess address you. To be caught with a full mouth is to be caught without a soul. Then comes the scone. It is warm, and it crumbles. This is the danger. A crumb on your silk bodice is a stain on your character. You do not cut the scone with a knife. That is common. You break it gently with your fingers, a rhythmic, soft snap of the crust. You use a small, silver spreader to apply the clotted cream, then the jam. Never, ever, do you sandwich the two halves back together. You eat each piece separately, a rhythmic, measured journey from the plate to the lips. And what of the petit four? The icing is sticky, a sugary trap for the unwary. You must lift it by its paper base, or use the tiny, silver tongs if they are provided. You feel the sweetness dissolve on your tongue, a rhythmic, pulsing hit of vanilla and rosewater. But you do not lick your fingers. Never. Even if a drop of fondant clings to your thumb, you use your napkin. The napkin is your shield. It stays on your lap, folded in half, the crease facing toward you. You do not wipe your face with it. You dab. A soft, rhythmic pressure against the corners of the mouth to remove the ghost of a crumb. If you must cough, you do so into the napkin, a muffled, rhythmic sound that you must immediately follow with a whispered, "I beg your pardon." The goal is to look as if you are not eating at all, but merely participating in a fragile idea of food. You notice the rhythm of the silver. The sound of a spoon hitting the saucer is a social alarm. It must be silent. When you stir your tea, you do not move the spoon in a circle. That creates a whirlpool, a chaotic, rhythmic swirl that might splash the porcelain. Instead, you move the spoon back and forth, from the 6 o'clock to the 12 o'clock position. Back, forth, back, forth. It is a silent, rhythmic pendulum. When you are finished, the spoon rests behind the cup, never, ever, on the tablecloth. As you eat, as you sip, the second layer of the tea party begins to reveal itself. The observation. In the Victorian parlor, we do not stare, but we see everything. It is a rhythmic, peripheral vision that scans the room while the face remains fixed in a smile. You are watching Lady Althea, and you know that she is watching you. It is a duel of the eyes, fought over the rim of a teacup. You observe the way a guest sits. Look at the woman on the velvet sofa. She has leaned back. Her spine has touched the upholstery. You see a rhythmic, subtle flicker of Mrs. Sterling's eyebrows. A judgment has been made. The woman is lazy. She has lost her social rigidity. To sit up straight for 2 hours is a rhythmic, physical struggle, and to fail it is to admit that you do not have the willpower of a lady. You observe the condition of the gloves. A guest across from you has a small, gray smudge on her left index finger. Where did it come from? Did she touch the carriage wheel? Did she fail to wash her hands after writing a letter? To you, it is a microscopic scandal. It suggests a hidden untidiness, a secret life of disorder. You watch her try to hide the finger behind her saucer, a rhythmic, nervous movement that only confirms her guilt. You observe the rhythm of the conversation. Who is being ignored? Who is being interrupted? To be interrupted in a Victorian room is to be erased. If a higher-ranking guest starts speaking while you are mid-sentence, you must stop immediately. You must vanish into the silence. You watch a young girl try to speak, her voice a rhythmic, hopeful chirp, only to be drowned out by the dowager's deep, authoritative boom. The girl's face flushes, a rhythmic, pink wave of shame. You note it. The room notes it. Think of the language of the tea leaves. Sometimes, a guest will stare into their empty cup, a rhythmic, searching gaze. They are not looking for the future. They are avoiding the present. If the conversation becomes too sharp, or if a question is asked that is too personal, the cup becomes a refuge. You watch a gentleman swirl the last dregs of his Earl Grey, his eyes fixed on the bottom of the porcelain. He is hiding. He has been asked about his father's debts, and his only answer is the rhythmic, dark circle of the tea. You observe the subtle disdain. It is in the way a woman lifts her pinky finger. Many think a raised pinky is a sign of class, but in the highest circles, it is seen as affectation. It is trying too hard. You see a guest doing it now, her finger extended like a stiff, rhythmic needle. You see the Countess look at that finger, then look away with a rhythmic, cold indifference. The guest has been categorized. She is a striver. She is not one of us. The room is a pressure cooker of judgments. Every blink is a data point. Every tilt of the head is a statement. You feel the weight of it on your own skin. You wonder, what are they seeing in you? Are they noticing the way you hold your scone? Are they counting the number of times you blink? You maintain your rhythmic calm. You keep your movements slow, predictable, and safe. You are a ghost in a lavender dress, invisible because you are perfect. The silent observation is the glue that holds the hierarchy together. We watch each other to ensure the rules are being followed. We watch each other to find a reason to feel superior. It is a cruel, rhythmic, and beautiful game. You take a slow, final sip of your tea. The liquid is cool now, its flavor a rhythmic, bitter end. You place the cup back on the saucer, ensuring there is no clink. Silence. You have eaten. You have observed. You have been observed. The tea table phase is ending, and the social performance, the battle of words and wit, is about to take center stage. The clock strikes the next quarter. Tick, tick, tick. The rhythm of the afternoon continues. The pressure does not lift, it only changes shape. You smooth your skirts, prepare your mind, and look up from your plate, ready to meet the eyes of the room once more. The tea has reached the bottom of the porcelain cups, the silver spoons have been laid to rest with a final, rhythmic tink against the saucers. Now, the room enters its most demanding phase. The conversation. In the Victorian world, talk is not meant to exchange information, it is meant to maintain order. You sit with your spine perfectly straight, your gloved hands resting like still, white birds on your lap. You are searching for a safe topic. Not everything spoken was truly felt. The most sacred of all safe topics is, of course, the weather. To a modern ear, it sounds mundane, but to a Victorian, it is a social shield. You listen to Mrs. Sterling describe the morning mist. It had a certain, pearlescent quality, don't you think? You nod, a slow, rhythmic movement of the head. Indeed, a most atmospheric start to the day. We talk of the clouds, the humidity, the way the light hits the river. We use the weather as a metaphor for stability. As long as we are talking about the sky, we are not talking about the self. Then, we move to the garden. In this room, a rose is never just a flower. It is a testament to cultivation. We discuss the blooming of the hydrangeas, the pruning of the boxwood hedges, the rhythmic, slow growth of the ivy. To talk of the garden is to talk of control. It suggests a world where everything is in its proper place, where the thorns are trimmed, and the soil is rich. You hear Lady Althea mention her orchids. Her voice is a rhythmic, melodic hum. She is not talking about botany, she is talking about her status. For only the truly wealthy can afford the hothouses required to keep such fragile things alive. We speak of music and the arts, but only in the most proper sense. We discuss the latest piano recital at the Crystal Palace. We talk of the elegance of the composition, the rhythmic precision of the performer. We do not talk of the passion in the music. We do not talk of the way a certain chord makes your heart ache with a rhythmic, sudden longing. No. We talk of the technique. We treat art like a lace handkerchief, something to be admired for its workmanship, but never for its soul. Think of the rhythm of the gossip. Yes, even gossip has a safe zone. We speak of marriages, of births, of the coming season. We use names like chess pieces. Have you heard that the youngest Miss Fletcher is to be presented? A most suitable match, one would hope. It is a rhythmic, predictable dance of names. We stay on the surface of the social pond, never diving deep enough to see the dark, murky water beneath. We talk of who was at the opera, and what jewels they wore. We are cataloging the world, ensuring that everyone is still in their assigned orbit. But beneath this safety, there is a constant, rhythmic vigilance. To avoid controversy is the highest form of Victorian intelligence. It is the art of navigating the minefield. You watch a gentleman, perhaps a visitor from the city, lean forward. He looks as if he is about to speak of politics. The room feels a sudden, rhythmic, and terrifying chill. In this drawing room, a mention of political reform or social unrest is like a drop of ink in a glass of clear water. It stains everything. Before he can even finish his sentence, Mrs. Sterling intervenes. It is a rhythmic, tactical strike. The tea is getting a bit cool. George, perhaps another scone? The controversy is buried under a layer of sugar and flour. We do not argue. We deflect. We use the weapon of politeness to silence the difficult truths of the world. We avoid money with a rhythmic, absolute dedication. To speak of a price, a debt, or even a profit is to be tainted by trade. Even if everyone in the room knows that the host is struggling to pay the servants, we act as if the silver on the table grew there by magic. We live in a world of invisible wealth. If you mention a cost, you are admitting that you think about labor. And a lady, a gentleman, must never seem to think about labor. The silence regarding money is a rhythmic, pulsing lie that we all tell together. Then, there is the body. We avoid any mention of illness, unless it is a vague, elegant fretfulness. To speak of a fever, a cough, or a genuine physical pain is to be indecent. We treat the body like a secret. We act as if we are made of silk and porcelain, rather than flesh and bone. If someone looks pale, we say they are reflective. If someone is trembling, we say the room is drafty. It is a rhythmic, collective denial of mortality. Think of the language of the negative. We avoid controversy by speaking in the opposite. If we dislike someone, we do not say they are cruel. We say they are perhaps a bit firm in their opinions. If a house is ugly, we say it is substantial. If a conversation is boring, we say it is restful. It is a rhythmic, exhausting translation that we perform every second. We are constantly smoothing the fabric of truth, ensuring that there are no wrinkles, no sharp edges, no places where a guest might trip. You feel the pressure of the unspoken. It is a rhythmic, heavy weight in the air. You realize that the more we talk of safe things, the more the unsafe things grow in the shadows. The poverty in the streets, the scandals in the newspapers, the doubts in our own hearts. They are all there, hovering just outside the heavy, velvet curtains. But as long as we keep the rhythm of the parlor, as long as we talk of the roses and the weather, the world outside cannot enter. You take a shallow, rhythmic breath. You find yourself joining the dance. The fog was indeed quite thick this morning. Mrs. Sterling. Your own voice sounds strange to you, melodic, hollow, and perfectly proper. You have learned to build the wall. You have learned to hide the fire. You realize that avoiding controversy is not about peace, it is about protection. The room is a circle of mirrors. We reflect each other's safety. We confirm each other's lies. It is a rhythmic, beautiful, and lonely performance. We are all actors on a stage of our own making, terrified of the moment the script might fail. You look at the clock. The pendulum swings left, right, left, right. It is the only thing that does not lie. It counts the seconds of our social performance, one rhythmic, ticking beat at a time. As the conversation continues, you feel a strange, rhythmic numbness. The safe topics have done their work. The room is calm. The guests are smiling. The controversy has been averted. But in the silence between the words, you can almost hear the heart of the world beating, loud and rhythmic, waiting for the moment the tea party ends, and the truth is allowed to breathe again. The afternoon is fading, and the light in the room is turning to a deep, rhythmic amber. You prepare your next sentence. Something about the opera. Something safe. Something nothing. And the dance goes on. The tea is now lukewarm in the cup, the steam has vanished, and the room has settled into a rhythmic, deceptive calm. But beneath this calm, a war is being waged. It is the eternal Victorian conflict, politeness versus honesty. In this gilded parlor, honesty is not a virtue, it is a social liability. To be honest is to be raw, to be jagged, to be unrefined. You sit with your hands folded, feeling the rhythmic, slight pulse in your fingertips. You realize that every word you have spoken today has been a polite fiction. Think of the cost of truth. If you were to be honest, you would tell Mrs. Sterling that the tea is a bit bitter, that the room is stiflingly hot, and that you find Lady Althea's constant boasting about her son's debut in Parliament to be exhausting. But you do not. Instead, you offer a rhythmic, melodic lie. The Earl Grey is perfection. Mrs. Sterling, and how wonderful for your son. Lady Althea, a truly gifted young man. The words feel like ash in your mouth, but they look like gold in the air. Why do we choose politeness over honesty? Because honesty is a fire that would burn this room to the ground. If we were all honest, the hierarchy would collapse, the silk would tear, and we would be left standing in the cold, naked and ashamed. Politeness is the linen that covers the table of our lives. It hides the stains, the scratches, and the cracks. It is a rhythmic, collective agreement to pretend. We pretend that we are happy. We pretend that we are friends, we pretend that the world is as stable as the silver tea urn. You watch a guest, a young girl, struggle with this conflict. Someone has made a snide remark about her dress, masked as a compliment. What a brave choice of ribbon, my dear. You see the girl's eyes flash with a rhythmic, sudden honesty. She wants to cry, or perhaps to snap back. But she catches herself. She remembers the code. She swallows the truth and replaces it with a rhythmic, hollow smile. You are too kind, thank you. In that moment, she has traded herself for her safety. Honesty in the Victorian world is reserved for the dark. It is for the diaries hidden in mahogany drawers, the whispered prayers at night, the silent tears shed behind a closed bedroom door. Here, in the light of the drawing room, honesty is indecent. It is like showing one's undergarments. We prefer the smooth surface of a lie. We use words like charming, delightful, and proper until they lose all meaning, becoming a rhythmic, hypnotic drone that keeps the truth at bay. You feel the duality of your own mind. There is the public you, the one who nods and smiles at the rhythmic, predictable stories of the hunt. And there is the private you, the one who is screaming with boredom, the one who wants to run out into the rain and breathe the cold, honest air. But the public you is stronger. She has been trained by years of rhythmic, relentless etiquette. She knows that a lapse in politeness is a death sentence in this circle. So you stay. You smile. You lie. And the room rewards you with another cup of tea. The conversation drifts, a rhythmic, slow tide of pleasantries. But as you look around the room, you begin to see the shadows. Behind every starched collar and every lace fan, there are hidden emotions that are never allowed to reach the surface. This is the burden of the Victorian soul. To feel, but to never, ever show. We are a people of suppressed storms. Look at the gentleman in the corner. Mr. Holloway. He is discussing the price of wool, his voice a rhythmic, steady baritone. But look at his eyes. They are fixed on a point far beyond the walls of this room. His wife passed away only last month. The room knows this. He knows they know. But he would rather die than discuss his grief. To show sorrow is to impose your pain on others. It is selfish. So he talks of wool, while his heart beats a rhythmic, heavy thud of agony against his ribs. We all play along. We do not offer sympathy, we offer tea. Think of the hidden anger. There is a woman sitting across from you. Lady Beatrice. Her husband has been seen with an actress in the Haymarket. The scandal is a rhythmic, pulsing whisper through the city. In this room, she sits next to the very woman who told her the news. Does she scream? Does she throw her porcelain cup? No. She discusses the curvature of the Sèvres pottery. The only sign of her rage is the way her knuckles are white, a rhythmic, sharp tension as she holds her saucer. Her anger is a frozen lake, solid and cold, hiding the darkness beneath. And what of love? Forbidden love, unrequited love, the love that dare not speak its name. It is here, in this room, hidden behind the rhythmic, frantic flutter of a fan. You see two guests share a look. It lasts only a fraction of a second. A rhythmic, electric spark that vanishes as soon as it appears. They turn back to their separate conversations, their faces returning to that porcelain stillness. In the Victorian world, love is a secret that must be guarded like a jewel. If it were to be seen, it would be vulgarized. So it stays hidden, a rhythmic, aching warmth beneath the silk. The hiddenness of our emotions creates a strange, rhythmic static in the air. You can feel it, even if you cannot see it. It is the weight of all the things not said. The grief, the rage, the desire, the fear. They are all here, sitting in the velvet armchairs, sipping from the gold-rimmed cups. We are a room full of walking secrets. And the effort to keep those secrets buried is monumental. It takes more energy than a day of physical labor. It is a rhythmic, mental exhaustion that settles into your very marrow. You look at your own hands. Are they telling your secrets? You smooth your skirts, a rhythmic, nervous habit you didn't know you had. You realize that you are terrified of being seen. Truly seen. You are terrified that if you let one emotion slip, a tear, a laugh that is too loud, a sigh that is too deep, the whole structure of your life will crumble. So you tighten the internal corset of your soul. You push the feelings down, deep into the dark vault of your heart, and you replace them with a rhythmic, steady nothingness. The afternoon is reaching its twilight, and you realize that you are no longer a person, you are a performer. This drawing room is not a home, it is a theater. Every movement, every word, every look is a part of a grand social performance. You are an actor, and the script is etiquette. The audience is everyone, and no one. For we are all performing for each other, a rhythmic, collective hallucination of civilization. Think of the staging of the self. You have spent hours preparing for this 2-hour performance. The dress, the hair, the grooming, they were all costumes. Now, you are on stage. You must hit your marks. You must stand in the right place, sit in the right way, and use the props, the fan, the cup, the napkin, with a rhythmic, effortless grace. If you miss a line, if you forget to acknowledge a guest, you have flubbed your part. And the critics, the gossips, will be merciless in their reviews. The performance requires a constant, rhythmic self-awareness. You are always outside of yourself, watching your own reflection in the eyes of others. Am I looking attentive? Is my smile too wide? Did I laugh at the right moment? You are the director and the actor all at once. It is a rhythmic, dizzying split in your consciousness. You can never simply be. You must always appear to be. And the gap between the two is where the Victorian tragedy lies. You watch the others perform. You see Mrs. Sterling, the leading lady. She is masterful. She moves from guest to guest, dropping rhythmic, perfectly timed pearls of politeness. She makes everyone feel seen, while remaining herself invisible. It is a rhythmic, breathtaking display of control. But you wonder, who is she when the lights go down? Who is she when the last guest has left and the butler has snuffed out the candles? Is there anything left of the person, or has the performer swallowed her whole? The exhaustion of the performance is starting to show, even through the powder and the silk. The conversation has become a rhythmic, mechanical clockwork. We are saying the same things we said last week, and the week before that. The opera was splendid. The fog is clearing. The Queen looks well. We are going through the motions. The soul of the afternoon has departed, leaving only the shell of propriety. You feel a rhythmic, sudden loneliness. To be in a room full of people, and yet to be utterly unseen. You realize that the social performance is a form of protection. It protects us from each other. It creates a safe distance between souls. If we didn't perform, we would be overwhelmed by the reality of our lives. The performance is the silk screen that filters the harsh light of truth. It is a rhythmic, beautiful, and cruel necessity. We are all prisoners of the play, bound by the rules of the stage, unable to leave until the final curtain falls. The clock on the mantel strikes the final quarter. Tick, tick, tick. The rhythm of the performance is slowing down. The guests are preparing their exit lines. You adjust your fan one last time, a rhythmic, final gesture of the mask. You have played your part well. You have not stumbled. You have kept your hidden emotions in their cage. You have chosen politeness over honesty. You are a success. But as you prepare to rise, you feel a rhythmic, cold dread. For you know that tomorrow, you will have to do it all again. The dress, the hair, the fan, the lies. The social performance never truly ends. It only changes scenes. You take a shallow, rhythmic breath and prepare for your final bow of the afternoon. The light is fading, the candles are flickering, and the world of the drawing room is about to go dark. The clock on the mahogany mantel strikes the hour. Dong, dong, dong. It is a rhythmic, golden signal that the afternoon has reached its inevitable limit. In the Victorian world, an ending is not an abrupt stop, it is a slow dissolve. You sit in your chair, feeling the cool, rhythmic weight of the silver ring on your finger, watching the room begin to unravel. The high-tension energy of the tea table, the sharp wit, the guarded glances, the constant vigilance, begins to bleed out of the room like color from a drying painting. And as the quiet returned, the afternoon slowly faded. Think of the hierarchy of departure. The guests do not leave in a chaotic rush. No. They leave with a rhythmic, predictable sequence that reflects the very ladder they have been climbing all afternoon. The Dowager Countess is the first to make her move. It starts with a tiny, rhythmic adjustment of her lace shawl, a signal so subtle it could be missed by anyone but the hostess. Mrs. Sterling catches it instantly. She nods, a silent, rhythmic acknowledgement that the queen of the parlor is ready to vacate her throne. As the Countess rises, the entire room follows suit. It is a rhythmic, collective surge of silk and wool. Rustle, swish, creak. You stand with them, your spine still a straight, unyielding line, feeling the rhythmic pull of your heavy skirts as they settle around your feet. The circle is breaking. The sacred geometry of the tea party is being dismantled. One by one, the personalities that filled this space begin to drift toward the door, leaving behind only the echoes of their presence. You watch Lady Althea move. She does not walk, she glides toward the exit, her rhythmic movements still governed by the rules of the house. Behind her, the younger girls follow like a rhythmic, shy flock of birds, their fans now closed and held like tiny, decorative batons. With every person who crosses the threshold, the room grows larger and colder. The warmth of 20 bodies, the steam of the tea, the vibration of 20 voices, it is all receding, leaving the furniture to stand in a rhythmic, lonely silence. Think of the visual decay of the room. A dropped napkin on the carpet, a stray crumb on a velvet cushion, a silver spoon left at a crooked, rhythmic angle. These are the social scars of the afternoon. As the guests leave, you see the room for what it is, a stage that is being cleared. The illusion of perfection is slipping away. You watch the shadows grow longer, the rhythmic, orange light of the setting sun stretching across the rug like the fingers of a ghost, reclaiming the space for the night. There is a strange, rhythmic melancholy in this exit. You have spent 2 hours building a social reality with these people, and now, in a matter of minutes, that reality is being liquidated. You see the guests retrieving their armor in the hallway, the heavy cloaks, the stiff hats, the leather gloves. They are arming themselves to face the outside world, a world that does not care for the quality of their lace or the rhythm of their speech. The transition is rhythmic, slow, and tinged with a secret, collective relief. Now, you reach the threshold of the drawing room. This is where the final act is performed. Mrs. Sterling stands by the door, a sentinel of propriety, her smile as rhythmic and practiced as it was at the first stroke of the afternoon. To leave her house, you must pass through the filter of the farewell. You cannot just walk past. You must offer a verbal sacrifice. You listen to the rhythmic, repeating loop of the guests as they reach her. A most charming afternoon, Mrs. Sterling. I shall treasure the memory of your roses. Such a delightful company, truly. The words are hollow. They are the polished stones of conversation, worn smooth by thousands of similar endings. Yet, we say them with a rhythmic, absolute conviction. Because to admit that the afternoon was tiring, or that the tea was cold, would be to break the spiritual contract of the elite. When it is your turn, you feel the cold draft from the hallway hitting your neck. You step toward your hostess. You look into her eyes, and for a rhythmic, flickering second, you see the truth. You see the dark circles beneath her powder. You see the slight tremor in her hand. She is dying for the silence just as much as you are. But you both keep the mask in place. You offer your hand, a cool, rhythmic, ghostly touch of kid leather against kid leather. Thank you for such an exquisite reception, Mrs. Sterling. It was a joy to have you, my dear, she responds. Her voice is a rhythmic, melodic lie. You both know she will forget half of what was said by dinner. You both know that you will likely gossip about her tomorrow. But in this moment, the farewell is the only truth that matters. It is the final seal on the performance. You turn away, leaving the warmth of the parlor for the rhythmic, echoing emptiness of the hallway. The hallway is a tunnel of echoes. You hear the final goodnights bouncing off the marble walls, losing their heat, becoming rhythmic, metallic sounds. Good night. Good night. Until Tuesday. Give my regards to the Baron. It sounds like a rhythmic, fading chant. The language of the drawing room is being stored away for another day. You watch the butler open the massive, oak front door. Creak. The sound is a rhythmic, sharp cry of wood and iron. You step out onto the stone steps, and the London air hits you, damp, cold, and smelling of coal smoke and river mud. It is the breath of reality. You walk toward your carriage, the sound of your own feet, tap, 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 sounding strangely loud in the rhythmic, gathering dusk. You look back at the house one last time. The windows are glowing with a rhythmic, yellow light, but you can see the servants moving inside, already snuffing out the candles. The magic is being extinguished. You step into the dark, velvet interior of your carriage. Click-clack. The door shuts, and the world is suddenly muffled. As the carriage pulls away, the rhythmic clop-clop-clop of the horses becomes a lullaby of release. You lean your head back against the seat, feeling the rhythmic, slight vibration of the wheels through your spine. The farewell is over. You are no longer the guest. You are no longer the lady of lavender silk. You are just a rhythmic, beating heart in a moving box of wood and leather. The house fades into the mist, a rhythmic, dark shape that is already becoming a memory. You realize that the polite farewells were the most important part of the day. They were the final knots tied in the thread of social order. Without them, the tea party would have been a chaotic mess of people leaving. With them, it was a masterpiece of restraint. You close your eyes, letting the rhythmic motion of the carriage wash away the lingering static of the parlor. The performance has concluded. The script has been followed to the last good night. You feel a rhythmic, deep emptiness in your chest, a space where the social performance used to be. You are alone with the silence, and the silence is the only honest thing left. As you drive through the rhythmic, flickering shadows of the gas lamps, you prepare yourself for the next phase, the reflection. The world of the drawing room is gone, and the world of the self is waiting in the dark of your own home. The carriage has long since departed, the rhythmic clop-clop of the horses fading into the London mist until it is nothing more than a ghost of a sound. You have stepped back through your own front door. But the air here is different. It is the silence of return. In a Victorian home, silence is not merely the absence of noise, it is a presence. It is a thick, rhythmic velvet that wraps around you the moment the heavy oak door clicks shut. Click. You stand in your own hallway, and for a rhythmic, heavy minute, you do not move. You listen. You listen to the house breathing. The ticking of the grandfather clock, tick, 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 is the only heartbeat left. It is a rhythmic, mechanical reminder that the social performance is over, and the chronology of the private soul has begun again. The echoes of the tea party, the laughter, the clinking china, the polite lies, they are all exorcised by this silence. Think of the weight of the quiet. After 2 hours of constant input, of reading eyes, translating fans, and measuring words, the silence feels almost violent. It rushes into your ears, a rhythmic, pulsing pressure. You walk toward your drawing room, but you do not turn on the lamps. You prefer the gray light of the dusk. You look at your own furniture. The chairs stand in a rhythmic, orderly circle, but they are empty. The ghosts of the guests have been swept away by the housemaid's rhythmic, invisible brooms. You notice the scent of the silence. It is no longer the sharp, citrus sting of Earl Grey or the heavy, floral perfume of Lady Althea. It is the smell of wax, old paper, and dust. It is the smell of truth. You run your gloved finger along the edge of a mahogany table. The wood is cool, rhythmic, and indifferent. It does not care if you were witty today. It does not care if your curtsy was perfect. The house accepts you as you are, a rhythmic, tired figure in the gloom. There is a rhythmic settling of the house. The floorboards groan, a slow, wooden sigh. The curtains sway in a rhythmic, ghostly draft. You realize that the social world is a loud, bright thinness, but this silence, this is depth. You move toward the window and look out at the street. The gas lamps are being lit one by one, a rhythmic, yellow chain of light through the fog. You are safe within your walls. The silence is your moat. It protects you from the world that just spent 2 hours trying to measure you. You take a slow, rhythmic breath, and for the first time since noon, your chest feels broad. The silence allows you to expand. You are no longer a point in a hierarchy. You are a volume of space. You listen to the distant, rhythmic muffled sounds of the servants in the kitchen, the clatter of a pot, a muffled laugh. Even their noise is external. Here, in the heart of your home, the silence is a rhythmic, sacred void that you are finally allowed to fill with your own thoughts. You climb the stairs, your feet making a rhythmic, soft thud on the carpet. You enter your dressing room, the same room where the day began in a rhythmic, anxious flurry of preparation. The candles are unlit. You do not call for your maid yet. You want this moment of unvarnished reflection. You walk toward the pier glass, the large, rhythmic oval of the mirror that has seen every version of you. You look at the stranger in the mirror. There she is. The lady of the tea party. Her hair is still perfectly coiffed, a rhythmic, intricate sculpture of pins and pomade. Her lavender silk dress still glows with a rhythmic, artificial luster. But the eyes are different. They are no longer scanning. They are looking. You see the rhythmic, deep fatigue in the pupils. You see the shadows that no amount of white powder could truly hide. Think of the audit of the soul. You begin to replay the afternoon in a rhythmic, slow-motion loop. Did I speak too much? Was my smile genuine, or did Mrs. Sterling see the cracks? You remember the cold gaze of the Dowager Countess. You feel the rhythmic, sudden sting of a remark you didn't quite understand until now. But then, you stop. You realize the absurdity of it all. All that rhythmic energy, all those thousands of words, all for nothing. What was actually said today? Nothing of substance. Nothing of the heart. You realize that the personal reflection is a process of stripping. You are stripping away the social layers. You reach up and pull out the first hairpin. Tink. It hits the silver tray with a rhythmic, sharp sound. Your hair loosened, a rhythmic, heavy fall of brown or black. It feels wild. It feels true. You are no longer the sculpture. You are the stone. You look at your gloves, lying on the dressing table like rhythmic, empty skins. They still hold the shape of your hands, but the life is gone from them. You realize that the social performance is a form of small death. To be proper, you had to kill the spontaneous. To be graceful, you had to kill the natural. This reflection is a rhythmic, melancholy resurrection. You are bringing yourself back to life in the dark. You think of the emotional contrast. In the parlor, you felt significant. You were a part of a great machine. But here, in the quiet, you feel small. And in that smallness, there is a rhythmic, profound freedom. You do not have to be significant here. You do not have to be anything. You are just a rhythmic, breathing animal in a silk cage. You look at the corset in the mirror, the rhythmic, rigid lines of it beneath your dress. It is the bone of the social world. And you are ready to break it. You take a final, rhythmic look at the lavender silk. It was your shield today. It protected you from the judgments of others. But it also isolated you. You realize that every person at that tea party was also looking in a mirror tonight. They are all, in this rhythmic, dark hour, pulling out their own pins. They are all sighing the same deep sigh. We are all performers who are only real when we are alone. The reflection in the mirror begins to soften as the moon rises higher. The hard lines of the lady are replaced by the soft shadows of the woman. You realize that the propriety you practiced was a rhythmic, beautiful lie. And the silence you are in now, this is the only truth. You feel a rhythmic, slow peace settle over your heart. The day is done. The performance is archived in the rhythmic, dusty pages of your memory. You turn away from the mirror. The reflected woman vanishes into the dark. You walk toward your bed, the rhythmic rustle of your petticoats sounding like a final goodbye to the afternoon. You have survived the audit. You have maintained the balance. But as you prepare to sleep, you know the truth. The social performance is what we do to survive, but the quiet reflection is what we do to live. The room is now perfectly still. The only rhythm is your own breathing. You close your eyes, and the world of tea and porcelain dissolves into the dark. You are home. You are silent. You are true. True elegance lies not in the attire we wear or the grace with which we hold a teacup, but in our genuine respect for others and the honesty within ourselves. A social mask may grant us temporary prestige, but at the end of the day, a person's true identity is defined by the courage to face oneself in the mirror.